Hey, I'm recording this right after the last one, and this is Fish Ace, yet another user from the same Discord server as Criff and Walkabout. We're going to be fighting Ace from Castaways. Ace is probably, in our group, the person that talks the most shit, and so he was really excited for this. I was coming off the back of the last game being really, really unhappy with how I played, and so I was scrimming with Animal some of these matchups. Even while Ace was ready and the other two members were playing, just because Animal really wanted me to get a win, so that I felt happy about myself. But I was never going to feel happy about myself today. Now, we first picked into Ace again, because I got really good matchups into Field Rush, and the other two Castaways players both brought Quinn Vane, right, the Dark and Harp Demacia deck, and I can't really do that. I can't beat that because it beats Demacia. It's like a slightly bigger Demacia that can value trade a lot better. And I've got really good matchups into Ace, and my teammates, they've got okay matchups into Ace, but they're not like phenomenal or anything. And so we've got really good matchups into Field Rush. It's just a choice between banning the Cat deck, which I'm just realizing doesn't run CRP. But it's not a Cat deck, it's a singleton deck that happens to run Cat, but it's also just like a Targon PNZ at value deck, right? With 3 Aphelios, that's their 3 of. As well as 3 bars, and I think there might have been one other 3 of, but it's mostly 1 ofs. As well as Heimerdinger and Jace. Now, I was going forward and back between which to ban. I end up banning a Heimerdinger Jace, just because if they don't get Cat, the first deck is easier to beat, while the second deck has more power cards that I need to worry about, right? Like the only power cards in the Cat deck are, I can have a drink of water, but the only power cards are like Aphelios, Bar, and Cat. While for Heimer Jace, it's Heimer, it's Jace, it's Adaptatron, it's Production Surge, it's the Nugget. I don't like Cookmaster. I've decided to take Cookmaster out of the deck, as I mentioned in the last VOD review. But here it's still as a 1-0. When I was doing this scrim, I managed to have Quietus on Zoe every time. This time I don't have much luck. Now, I decide between RuneSquire and no RuneSquire. RuneSquire is pretty decent here. Getting removal off our like Katarina is pretty good, especially when they're not running. They're running a lot of removal, but it's all like 1-ofs, right? They've got 1 Thermo, 1 Piltover, 1 Mystic, 1 High Note, these sorts of things, right? And so if we can protect a Katarina by pulling like, I don't know, a Zoe or an Aphelios with a Hollowed proc with the RuneSquire, and they Mystic shot that, it protects our Katarina a little. But I think what I wanted most of all was Hollowed procs, Gwen's Reckoners, and Harrowing. Right, like these were the more important things, and Quietus does very similar things to RuneSquire, and I ended up starting to cut it. For example, would I rather a Butler or a RuneSquire? The answer is Butler. It threatens a lot more damage. 1 damage is harder for them to do. Except with like a High Note, right? They're not running like Blade's Edge because they're not Noxus, right? So they can't really deal with 1 damage. They can do 2 damage removal on it, and Fearsome's pretty good against them because one of their only Fearsome blockers early on is Aphelios. So we just do double Butler here and threaten a fair bit of damage. They've obviously got, I think it might be 2 goats, but it might just be 1 goat. Getting Host here, like these last few unit draws were pretty good. Getting the Host here was pretty nice. Running a lot of damage, and because we've got Harrowing, we've definitely got the late game secured, and with Hollow, like Harrowing becomes pretty powerful. But the issue with Harrowing is that you really want 1 to 3 like Harrowing cards to die. What I mean is Katarina, Gwen, Dances, and Fallen Reckoner. Ruined Reckoner can also work, but it's like the 4th best one. Okay? I'm gonna have more water, and I'm gonna pause to cough. Sorry for that, but I finished coughing. It happens when I talk a lot and I've just woken up. But they play Aphelios. We play this card just for mana reasons, and if they don't play Poro Cannon, they will, but if they don't play Poro Cannon, this Fallen Reckoner is pretty good. They play Calibrum. They give us the Hollowed proc. Even if they play the Poro, Fallen Reckoner is pretty good. Now the question here is, do we glimpse for draw? And my answer ends up being yes. And the answer being yes is very specifically because if they Mystic, we can Reckoner the Aphelios. And Reckoning the Aphelios, well, we do want Aphelios to die eventually. Reckoning the Aphelios is pretty good in terms of being able to threaten a lot, because it's one of their better blockers in terms of dealing with like overwhelm. Right? Like the only other good overwhelm blockers are like Victor and like Vi. Alright. So I'm pretty happy to do the glimpse here, and it goes off, which is also just fine, right? I'm pretty happy to see it go off. And now I play Host here. I think Host is maybe wrong. I think holding up Quietus for Zoe doesn't matter. They clearly didn't have Zoe, and I'd rather have Quietest the 1/1. So I think playing Host here was wrong, just because if we can do that playoff segment where we put the pump block on the Aphelios, that's pretty good. And also Quietusing the Poro is just like good, right? We prevented damage. We're going to be running like we could maybe take 4 or 5 damage from this Poro just over the course of the game, because we never have an opportunity to really kill the Poro. Especially since it can't block, right? So I really do wish that we kept Quietus up and didn't play the Hollowed. Okay, that being said, it's still a 2-1 and the Hollowed isn't bad. They play Sunhawk, which feels pretty bad for us. If we'd done the Quietus line, we could have... it doesn't change anything if we did the Quietus line. We'll just do the attack here. I have to decide what I want to attack with. You can do a few things. You can attack with the Host to get the extra Hollowed. You can attack with the Hookmaster so that you can cycle weapons and deal more damage with like weapon stuff. But it costs mana to do that, while the Host is free because Hollowed doesn't cost anything once it's in your deck. Alternatively, you can actually attack with both. That way, if they block your Hollowed buffed unit with Sunhawk, you're dealing 2 damage. If they block the other one with Sunhawk, you're dealing 5 damage to the Nexus. And if they block with both, you're putting Aphelios into Flock and Vial range, which is something that they don't want to be in. But if they've got Guiding Touch, they're pretty okay with putting Aphelios into that range and trading up your units and trying to go wide on you. I think there's definitely arguments for attacking with both units here, but I end up deciding just to attack with one because I think it's safer, and because we got the Harrowing, I think we can play it pretty safe. Right, especially since we've already had a Reckoner here. If the Reckoner dies, and if we can get the second Reckoner off, the Harrowing will be really, really powerful. Yeah. Now I want to talk about something else entirely, and it's going to be the role of this Vengeance. Now, the way I've always lost against this deck, when I was doing scrims against Eniamar, was the Catastrophe. Right, and so I have 2 options. I can Vengeance Aphelios next turn to get rid of one of their valuations. Because they're on 3 Aphelioses, I was thinking that Vengeancing Aphelios isn't high value enough, and that I thought that I could still win despite the Aphelios, and I'd rather have Vengeance for Catastrophe, provided that they don't have like a bar generated recall or iterative improvements. Maybe they use iterative to actually get the cat. If I Vengeance the cat, I will be much better off. There are definitely arguments to whether you Vengeance Cat or Vengeance Aphelios, or maybe Vi, right, if Vi ever comes down. But I end up deciding right around here, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep Vengeance for Cat or Vengeance for Aphelios? And what I decide is to keep, you can see me like horror, decide to keep Vengeance for Cat. I decide that Aphelios I don't care about enough. Which is crazy to think about, because Aphelios is a really, really powerful card. But here, we're in sort of a weird position where we're not threatening a lot. Harrowing isn't great. We can Glimpse, but we can't, like, Glimpse isn't great either. We should have probably played, well, they got Graviton. That's why I didn't play the Pan yet. Because if they grab, then we can Pan afterwards. If they play Grab, I can redo it on the 4th row. Yeah. I think I decide to Glimpse. Because they, unless they get excited, they can't kill our Reckoner, and I do want the other half of Reckoner to die eventually. I'm sorry, to get played and die so that I can get Harrowing. And this is pretty good. We drew 2 units. Not the best units, especially without Flock. But 2 units nonetheless. I think we've got Calibrum in hand. It's a bit awkward. From memory, I just end up deciding to pass or Vial. We can now Vial on like 1/1s, because if we get Flock, it's fine. We play Pan, even though they've got Calibrum. Oh, sorry, Crescendum! No. Okay, this was correct. Sorry, for some reason I thought they had Calibrum in hand. We play Crescendum. They get Veteran. I get Katarina, which I think is pretty good for me. Especially if Katarina dies, it means we can Harrowing her. We just played this to set up another blocker, so that we can block the 3-2 with the Vial. They don't really have good trades here. And we just commit this, and next turn we might be doing something like Katarina and a Reckoner, or Katarina and a stun, get some awkward blocks, try and deal a little bit of damage, that sort of thing. Even though it's play Crescendum, so they're going to be getting Severum or Cadabrum. And luckily none of those really hit Katarina or Gwen. Unless they do like Calibrum into a spell into Grow with them, right? And since we got Katarina and Gwen, remember I just play Katarina and Gwen. But these are great things to be harrowing. And they also apply a lot of pressure in terms of the cards that we're forcing them to spend. Like if they keep spending cards in their important units, we're feeling pretty good. Gross Finance here is a little bit annoying, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Remember, so here I'm deciding if it's worth to kill a unit and stun to be like threatening more damage, or if it's worth playing Gwen. But I'm pretty sure Gwen is pretty much always correct. If they play Hex Splitterator on Gwen, I'm like that's a lot of mana, and that means I can probably level up Katarina, especially since they didn't have Get Excited last turn and like Mystic a few turns ago. Or they decided not to Mystic. There was reasons not to Mystic. It wasn't guaranteed. This was from the top, and from memory it was Shock Blast off the Reggie. And if they've got Shock Blast, they just kill the host and the 3/2, but at least we still get the Gwen to attack it. From memory, this is Shock Blast. It wasn't Reggie's? I thought that was Reggie's Shock Blast. Maybe it wasn't. I'm gonna double check. Hold on. The first time they put it on the stack, it came from the top, right? Yeah, okay, so it was Reggie's Shock Blast. Yeah, they Shock Blast, we attack with Gwen. They block with Reggie. We deal 2 to the dome, we heal, we're 1 away from leveling Gwen, which is unfortunate, because the extra HP might have been useful. They pick Calibrum on the 1/1, they put a pretty decent attack here. And alright, I facepalm because they're always going to Calibrum the 1/1. I should have just attacked with the 1/1 and gotten the extra Holoid procs and forced them to block with, I don't know, the 3/1, because it's better than it being Calibrum. And I can even brick their Calibrum, right? If I don't play a unit, I can just brick Calibrum, and they have to either Calibrum their own unit, which I think they can do. I think they can Calibrum their own unit. And not level Aphelios here. So if I just attacked with the 1/1, they would have had to take the damage in order to Calibrum, or just not take the damage, or just not level up Aphelios. So that was a definite misplay. I really should have attacked with the 1/1 there. It's sort of a misplay that can cost you the game, I will be honest. Not forcing them to block, not letting them level up Aphelios unless they Calibrum their can't block guy. Would have been their second best play. I really wish I had done that. But they're somewhat incentivized not to open. Because they want to play a Growlithe into like Infernal or something, right? And because of that, it means that we can get more value out of our stun spiders. Now again, we could have still played a Vengeance here, but a long time ago I decided not to do Vengeance. I decided to keep Vengeance for Cat. Even if they can have Iterative and just Iterative the Cat, I decided just to Vengeance Cat. So they have Growlithe, and from memory, I just wait for them to play Infernal. But since they don't have a lot of over the top, and I'm willing to just chump block, I wanted them to do Infernum. And like if they did it on the Aphelios, I can stun the Aphelios, for example, right? They play Infernum, I end up stunning Aphelios, just because it lets me have decent trades everywhere else. I still take 3 damage, but I don't really care too much. We were lucky that they never got Glorious Evolution. This game has their other like big power card. Especially like, you know, with Victor. That end, I want to say that they low-rolled in a sense, but they did get Aphelios and Bar, and their deck is all single-gun cards. It's sort of hard to argue if they low-roll or not. We do the trades here because they're setting up a Harrowing, right? Because we've got 2 Reckoners and a Katarina that have died. Like, Reckoning is still pretty good here. This is another facepalm. You've got to realize that during this entire game, I'm saying 2 things to myself. 1, what the fuck was I doing against Walkabout? And 2, I don't think I should be doing well into this deck, because I have lost against this deck a few times, and I really wish I was fighting Filtherash. And 3 was that if I lose to Ace, I will never hear the end of it. Because I was 6-0. Ace was upset that he couldn't take my, you know, loss of virginity or whatever. Like, give me my first loss. And Ace said that he was waiting when I was scrimming against Anymore, and his teammate was also DMing me. So all I was saying was, I really don't want to lose to Ace. And so doing a misplay like this, where if I had just blocked the bar, the back alley bar, I would have been playing around a Pale Cascade, right? If I just switch these two, there's literally no negative to me, except that I get to play around Pale Cascade, which I definitely should have been doing. So that's what the emoji about. And again, that's the sort of misplay that can make you lose a game. Same with the Calibrum one, right? Both of these can very easily have lost me the game, especially if they just generated a deny or a right of negation, right? Like, if they generated a deny or a right of negation, at least, like, Aphelios may not have leveled so quickly. Back alley Barkeep would have been dead, and they wouldn't have had as many units. What is good about their position right now is that they can't play Catastrophe, right? Because Catastrophe summons a unit, it can't replace a unit. I'm feeling pretty good about this position. When I'm Harrowing, I can also Quietus, and I can also play the Blade's Edge that I get off Katarina. They play Drum Solo, which is a little threatening. But us being able to play the Quietus or the Blade's Edge is pretty good. Gwen is pretty nice as well, just in case the Harrowing doesn't work. But having 2 can't block guys against a board that still has 2 can't block guys, remember that Poro they played on turn... What, 5? They played it on turn 4 to protect it from turn 5. It's dealt a lot of damage over this time. And if I had the can't block in the Aphelios, that would have been forced to block with the Poro, and probably have lost the Poro a little while ago. And they play Calibrum to kill the 6-3 here, which is fine. But we're threatening a lot of damage. And while they'll typically have stuff like Mystic, High Note, etc. to interact with us, they end up just playing the Invoke 3 cards, Celestial Trifecta. And so if they get the double stun, it's a little bit awkward. But the double stun and maybe the deal 4, deal 1 are the only ones that I'm really scared of out of Celestial Trifecta. Nothing else really scares me except those 2. And so seeing them do Celestial Trifecta and feel forced to do Celestial Trifecta felt pretty good for me. And if they put this on the stack, we don't Blade's Edge, by the way, because there's nothing we really want to destroy. Because all of their stuff that they would want to Blade's Edge with can't block, and I'd rather be able to do Blade's Edge on the Nexus, especially for relying on the second Blade's Edge from Katarina flip to deal lethal. They could play Calibrum here. We just attack. I attack with the Reckoner first. Now, there are arguments not to attack with the Reckoner first. You can attack with the 3-1 first. 3-1 loses to, like, Mystic, High Note, blah, 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 a lot more than this. They have to get excited to get rid of this. If they have Hush or Moonlight Affliction, and I think they only run Hush, but I'm saying they could have generated Moonlight Affliction off, like, a Barkeep or something. You could argue that it's better to at least keep the Overwhelm and the Last Breath effect just because they might have to hush something else, right? But I think this plays around High Note Mystic a lot more, which is something that's on my mind a little bit more than their other cards. I forget if they survived this attack. I think they played Guiding into Pale and then maybe find a Mystic? They find a Spell Thief, which gives them a Vile Feast. Right? There we go. Here I just end up deciding, based on, like, generated spells, should I Blade's Edge my own guy or not? And if I do this, it doesn't play around, what doesn't it play around? Look, from memory, this and doing it on the dome, I'm gonna sneeze, sorry. Maybe I won't. Doing it on the dome and doing it on the 3-1 doesn't change anything. But my thinking was, there might be something I'm failing to play around that could be generated off bar. It is probably safer to just do it on the Nexus. Just in case there's something that's generated off bar that I'm not thinking about. Is there? I'm racking my brain now, and I still think the answer is no. Because generated Blade's Edge doesn't do it. Like, it doesn't change anything, it's the same player. But what's good here is that they're at 2 HP, which is what I was saying, right? Like, we can Blade's Edge into Katarina, into Blade's Edge, to win the game. If they've got healing, we can obviously do the rally that Katarina gives us. We can obviously do some stun. We've got second Gwen if they manage to kill Gwen and Katarina and heal. We've got the Reckoners, we can attack if they play a unit. This is pretty much a guaranteed lethal. Right, it's very hard to imagine a scenario where they're able to survive here. They play Fan Club to try and look for healing. Fun fact, they find healing. But as I said, our hand is just so powerful. Right, even if they play healing, we play the Risen Reckoner, they're dead. They play another unit, we stun it, they're dead. They somehow survive the attack. We play Eternal Dancers, they're dead. Right, they play Comet here to kill our Gwen. Right, we've also got Gwen in it. Right, they can't win here. They play Grasp, I play Glimpse. We could have replayed Gwen, we could have done, you know, a bunch of other things. But this is just lethal. And that's game. That's game 1. Oh, I forgot to mention in the walkabout game that us as a team lost. Our fake hero got a win, but Morpiece lost, and so did I. And that's why I was also really sad. Like, if I had won that game, we would have had a win against ABG Zone and only had 1 loss in the season, from memory. Or maybe 2. But, yeah. So now it's Jax Vayne, or Vayne Jax. How was I saying it wrongly before? Jax Jane? Whatever, I don't know. Here, from memory, I keep these 2 cards. Zealous Ranger Knight is up in the air, and Aegis you definitely could keep. But my thinking was that I probably want to go wide and go like a little bit aggressive. And Ranger Knight allows you to do that quite often. But you do need weapons. And so maybe keeping Ranger Knight or keeping Jaral might have been correct. But this is decent for us now that we've got the Hookmaster. Them getting Goat, of course, is really good for them. Goat is probably one of their best cards. Especially early game. But we've got a lot of interaction pieces, especially for like Aphelios and stuff. And we've got a really good turn 4 play, right? With the just going wide and stuff. Although they've got a lot of their really good turn 2 cards, which is really strong for them. They attack with this because if they pale, we can't block just in case they got pale. From memory, I just don't want them to have pale. I'd rather have Vayne keep ticking down. I'd rather keep the Zealous Ranger Knight alive. Just because it allows us to go wide and stuff. Well, they're blocking, and again, if they have pale, we just lose our Zealous Ranger Knight for no reason. Hookmaster takes combat reel. I want enough strength to be able to fish fight like the goat or something. I actually think this is a misplay. I think it's better for them if they gem the 2-3 to make it a 3-3. I think that trades into us a lot better. Like, I can't attack with the Ranger Knight, but now I basically can attack with the Ranger Knight. Provided that they don't have, like, Vile Beasts and stuff. But they play Aphelios here, and we get into a really interesting position. Remember that our weapon is the Attune weapon. So if I want to kill Aphelios, I've got a few options. But what I decide to do is Entrancing Lure the Aphelios. Now, if they've got Pale Cascade, from memory I was going to decide to just fish fight and kill off our Zealous Ranger Knight. If they had Pale. An alternative line is to pull, like, something out. Sorry, I thought I heard a noise in my house. Getting single here is pretty nice. It allows us to play around stuff even more. But Entrancing Lure lets us kill Aphelios, from memory. Yeah, which is really good, right? Getting the Entrancing Lure here was really nice. And making sure that we got a 2-strength weapon, especially the Attune one, which is probably the best one in our position, felt really good. And we like the Guided Die because it means we can put the weapon on the Zealous Ranger Knight and stuff. Hearts Made Whole is okay, but we really want more weapons. So, like, while we can do, like, a tumble play here, it's not great. Now, they play Vi here. Remember, I ended up tumbling the combat reel? It allows us to attune, it allows us to attack, it forces them to block with Vi, or lose a unit, especially since we know they don't have Pale. They would have played Pale last turn. They block with Vi here. In my head, I consider single combating the goat. I think I'm just okay with doing this trade because if they somehow got, you know, Pale off the top or was keeping Pale for some reason, It would have been a little bit of a blowout. Same with Mystic, right? Like, they could have kept their Vi alive if I do the single here. So I just let this happen. Like, her dying is pretty good for me. Again, I get the weapon back, so I can do it on the Ranger Knight. I can discard it, right? I think I end up discarding it because I really want units and I really want more weapons. And we just don't find it. But I also get to do this trade, which I think is pretty decent for me, and in my attempt to sort of like outvalue them and try and find like good stuff. But what is troubling is that I've got a bunch of interaction. Like, I've got 3 strike spells, 3 pretty awkward units, 2 pseudo, 1 rally, 1 pseudo rally. But no weapons. Right, I know I just got rid of a weapon, but that weapon wasn't doing much for me. It's just 1 weapon. I really wanted more weapons, and I wanted more units and a bit of go away. And luckily we find that in Fisherwhack. And Fisherwhack's another good weapon for us to have here, especially since we're going to be giving this weapon to everyone. Priestess is fine. The 4-1 is a little bit scary right now, because it can kill off some of our units pretty well. They have Calibrum, which is what they took off Aphelios, and this is a fine Calibrum. From memory here, I decide to single. Just because if it goes off, we push a lot of damage. And there's not much else we were planning on singling, especially with fish fight and stuff. Although it could have been better to fish fight, I will be honest. To kill the goat after combat. And just not worry about buffing up the castaway with the extra damage and that sort of thing. But I think this is fine, because they showed that they didn't have Pale. Now, they could have had some Blessed Figure, which is something I wasn't considering. They ended up having High Note to kill like guy, which is fine. They keep killing our weapon, which means we get to at least replay our weapon and give us some value. We attack with the 2-2 here. They clearly just don't have Pale. We attack with both? Nah, we attack with just the 2-2. Yeah, okay, good. Good job, Spidz. And yay, it's turn... what? 7? It's just about to be turn 7 and we've done 2 damage this game. That's kinda cool. Zoe will die to fish fight and stuff. I'm not worried about Zoe. Them not playing Bar was pretty good for us that turn. And getting another weapon is really, really good for us. Now we can finally actually start justifying stuff with fish fight. We do fish fight now. That way they don't have Pale. That way they don't, like, I don't know, play Messenger and draw into something that could make this awkward. They don't. Oh, the other reason was that they don't get Moonglow. That's why I want to do it now. They don't. I don't want them to get Moonglow off the super cool star chart. From memory, just play Hookmaster. We want to go wide a bit. I take Orth because I want to deal damage. Right, like I really have to threaten damage, so I just take Orth here. I also want to heal the Zealous Ranger Knight, so I think I put the Overwhelm weapon on Zealous Ranger Knight, especially when they play Trifecta and like don't accomplish much. Right, like Trifecta's pretty tempo negative, and right here we've got some interesting options. What we can do is we can Cataclysm to kill the 2-2, and we can also fish fight to kill the 2-2 and threaten a lot more in the open. And from memory, that's what I decided to do. I decided to fish fight the 2-2 and just threaten like a bunch of damage in the open. And we can actually afford Cataclysm Rally. And what's so good about Cataclysm Rally is that we can Cataclysm with the Zealous Ranger Knight, and the attack trigger still goes off to buff himself and the 3-3. Right? So we get a lot of damage here. Vane's a pretty good top deck, but it doesn't go into the line I'm sort of considering at the moment, because we can't afford a lot of stuff. We do this, we deal 7. It's just in a really great position to do like a rally or a cataclysm. I start with a rally, force them to do something. I just want them to do something. They play Sunhawk. Now Sunhawk, we can cataclysm the Sunhawk and threaten lethal. And they don't really want to kill our unit here because it's got the barrier. And we still get to buff the Hookmaster, which means it does extra damage, which means it's threatening lethal when I do the real attack, which means they're forced to play another unit and block with it. And because we've got the Vane, we can still do some pretty good stuff with the Overwhelm weapon. Now, this play was a little all-in, to an extent that we may not have needed to be. And we could have just played Vane, been a bit safer and done like Cataclysm Tumble on the next turn, which might have been a bit safer of a play. My thing was that I really wanted to threaten damage. We deal 3 here, and allows Vayne to be threatening lethal with a lot of stuff anyway next turn. Especially since we can throw our Overwhelm Weapon into them next turn, get it back, and then use it on our attack afterwards, right? Especially since they're going to be really low on HP. They play Moonsilver on Destroyer here, which does threaten us from killing them. I'm pretty sure I attack with both units though, because they're forced to block the 5/5, and so I may as well get the 2 damage in, and getting the can't block weapon is pretty good for me, because it allows us to play around stuff like Guiding Touch. And they shouldn't really have a great way of killing us here. Now these last few turns take a long time. You can see there's 5 minutes left. And like I don't feel bad about spoiling that because you can see the video length. There's not enough time for another game, so it is spoilers that I win here. But we end up thinking a lot about these turns because it is close for him. Fish Ace is pretty close to winning. Meteor Shower is pretty good for them. It kills off my Zealous Ranger Knight, but it lets me get my Overwhelm Weapon back. And especially with the Vayne, I'm feeling pretty good about having the Overwhelm Weapon back. And I want to play Vayne now so I can threaten Overwhelm Weapon stuff. If I put the Overwhelm Weapon on the Steadfast Elkin, I currently have lethal. But if they play Gem, and I put the Overwhelm Weapon on the Steadfast Elkin, that isn't lethal. It puts them to 1 HP, but they lose their Destroyer and their Gem. And it could be better to do that, because if they survive, if they put the Gem and I put the Overwhelm Weapon tumbled on the Vayne, and they survive that, it means that I'm not going to be able to generate any more tumbles. And I think generating tumbles allows us to push a lot more damage. So if they play Gem, I think my plan was to put the Fisher Whack on the Elkin, force them to still block with the Destroyer, but at least I get to keep my Vayne stuff around. Now, it's hard to keep track of the Celestials. From memory, all they had left was 1 small, because they played Meteor Shower and Destroyer and Moonsilver from their Celestial Trifecta, but they still have that super cool star chart from that Zoe ages and ages ago. And from memory, they still have 1 small Celestial in both. They play the Gem here. Right, the other play that we can do, by the way, is just playing Combat Cook and just going wide. From memory, I end round here with that logic in mind. If they're not playing a unit, we can open. We decided not to because we get the tracker, but from memory, we could have opened. So I didn't want them to attack me. I found it difficult to believe that they would be able to threaten lethal in time on their next attack turn. But if we develop stuff and attack them, they probably would have attacked us back had they survived, and that might have been able to make them threaten lethal before we can tumble on their next attack turn. And my thinking was as well that us going wide, especially with the Combat Cook, the Overwhelm Weapon, even the Can't Block thing, and the tumble after all of this, would have been able to threaten a fair bit of damage. Getting the tracker here was really, really good. They play Spell Thief, and from memory, they steal our Tumble. Because the only spells that we've played are like Tumble, Cataclysm, that sort of thing. They play Time Trick, which is great for us to see. If they're scouring for stuff, I think we're pretty happy. What's good is that we're fighting Targon, and we're about to be 4 wide when they're only 1 wide, and we've got the rally thereafter. We can even put the Can't Block weapon on the Fleet Feather Tracker to kill the Destroyer. Or we can put it on the 3-1 to play around stuff like what is it? Like healing and stuff. But they get a Aphelios. And Aphelios is really, really good for them. It's probably their best draw that they could have gotten off the time too. I play Combat Cook. From memory, I think I get the Scout Weapon, which is very, very lucky. I don't think it's necessary for lethal. But sure, it's the best weapon I could have gotten in this scenario because of the tumble and stuff. From memory, they took Calibrum, not Growlithe, because I think they can curve it into Growlithe. As they just Calibrum my combat cook here, force us to put the scout weapon on something else, I think. But as long as we're both threatening going wide, and threatening Overwhelm, and threatening Tumble, it would demand a lot of resources out of them. So they play Calibrum on the 4-3, and have another thing of water. I put Orth on the Fleet Feather Tracker. Now it does mean that we can't replay weapons and tumble, but that's pretty okay with me. They play Pale, they play Krabby, but the more that they're spending on defending, the more I win. Right? Like, if they end up going down to 1 card, or 1 mana, or 0 mana without a bar, and without having played Drum Solo, I'm really happy. They play Cataclysm, and this is lethal. Because we got the Overwhelm weapon, this is just lethal, right? We pull the Destroyer, we put the Overwhelm weapon on the Elfin, and we win. And that's just game. I presume they didn't have a better play, so we just win the game. It was really close against Fish Ace. He said after the game that he misplayed quite a bit. I can't see what they are, but I gotta presume it's got a lot to do with like what's in his hand and like his gameplay style more like. I definitely had a few ways of winning here, but this was the quickest one. And we beat Fish Ace.
Hey,
how'd you go?
I joined the voice chat with any more beats. Our team went 3-0 and we were one of Castaway's many losses this week. My voice is going a bit, I'm sorry. But a pretty decent set. Hold on, let me cough one last time. The last thing I would like to mention, God, my voice, I need to cough better. Last thing I want to mention, hold on. Is my microphone's not doing the up and down thing? I sure hope it's recording my microphone. I really hope it's recording my microphone. I don't have to redo all of this. It's just not showing me on Streamlabs. Now I'm concerned. The last thing I just wanted to say was that the plan was to 2-0 the Fielder Rush. Like, that was the whole reason I first picked into them, and 2-0ing the other deck is the thing that happens somewhat often, and it still annoys me every time that happens. I'm gonna check if the audio was recording or not. Bye!